was very confused. It was very hazy. I didn't understand the monumental amount of people that were there and what they were doing with taking things from my home. I was worried about my dogs. I was worried about my son. I was in shock. I was traumatized by the situation, and then trying to focus on everything that was going on at my home. I was hungover. I was still, I believe, intoxicated to a degree.
She didn't understand the monumental amount of people that were there. What did she think? Some guy was going to rock up in a coroner's t-shirt, put George back in the suitcase and wheel him out? Thank you, ma'am. Have a nice day.
So that afternoon on February 24th of 2020, when Deputy Kayla Rodriguez arrived at your residence shortly after 1 p.m., you were under the influence of alcohol, correct?
Yes.
You were impaired by alcohol, correct?
I don't know as much as impaired means. It did affect, yes.
I don't know as much as impaired means. It did affect, yes. I actually have to read that because it makes no sense, so I can't remember it. I don't know as much as impaired means. It did affect, yes. I don't know. And I mean, she's the one who had to get up there and go off script and say that she believes she was intoxicated to a degree, loves to a degree. I don't know as much as impaired means. It did affect, yes. Does that make any sense? And then, of course, she's like, I don't understand the question. I don't. Yes, it's been asked 3 ways. She's such a. This is, I'm about to play a snippet from her interview in the car with Copsel and Lowen. And when I heard this, I realized that Sarah knows what she should, that her behavior is horrible and that she shouldn't be doing the things she does, but she, I don't know, doesn't care, or I think gets some kind of pleasure out of it. Let's listen.
Your thoughts?
Brian, because I was supposed to have my son today to pick him up from school. Brian usually calls to make sure, hey, are you sure? Because I've had job interviews.
Right.
Are you going to pick up? So after he called like maybe 3, 4 times, maybe 5, I finally answered, and that's like...
Do you think you were sleeping and missed those calls?
No, I ignored them.
You ignored them?
Because he's notorious for blowing up my phone.
Okay.
But I understand why, because he's making sure that Lucas gets home.
Right, yeah, okay.
And to do whatever he needs to do day-wise so he can schedule around it.
Were you upstairs in your room at that time when you were ignoring those phone calls?
Yes.
So she gets why Brian is blowing up her phone, which she's notorious for, because he wants to plan his day and he wants to know if she's gonna pick up their son. But she doesn't care. She still just lets it ring, and she admits it. That's she's honest about. Because sometimes she has a job interview. Okay, all right. Don't make your job interviews for the exact time you have to go pick up your son. And then the nerve she had, she called him over there that day and then called him again and she even said, even that she knew, because on the stand she was like, yes, I called him again because every minute seemed like an hour. I was so confused. I was so confused for. She cannot wait to dial 911. I was worried about my son. She was not worried about her son. She if it wasn't for Brian saying all she kept saying is, Brian, don't leave. And at one point he said, yeah, someone has to pick up our son. And she was like, I know. Then at one point she's like, well, my son has to be picked up from school. And they were like, yeah, your former husband took care of it. And she was like, oh. When she said that, I don't know as much as impaired means, but yes, it did affect thing. I wanted Jay to call her out and be like, I'm sorry, can you repeat that? But, I mean, there's only so much time. And he called her out on the notorious thing during the trial, which made me very happy. Also, she doesn't answer a question. Detectives Copsell and Lowen realized that early on, which is why they didn't, after a while they were just like, whatever, let's just arrest her. Take a listen to how she answers the question, you wouldn't put George in a suitcase? Look at what she does here.
I would never do that.
You would never zip them up in a suitcase?
Well, I mean, we were playing.
No, I know,
that
but
time,
I'm saying, I'm talking about hide and seek, which is a game, so.
the suitcase originally is in our closet, buried all the way to the back. If you, I know the CSI people saw our closet. Our closet needs to be cleaned out really bad. My son's clothes need to be cleaned out really bad because they don't fit him anymore, and I'm tired of looking at them. So he took it upon himself, including that suitcase, to take it downstairs so we can get all of our clothes, our donations and everything, and just leave the whole thing by the clothing and shoe thing at my son's school.
So it looks like she's answering it the long way. And she starts with, the suitcase is usually all the way back in the closet. And she's like distracting them with, And then you're like, okay, so where's, then you realize it's not going anywhere. You don't even remember the question you asked her by the time she's done. Hello, my darling, hello. Also, she does this thing where she acts like, when she came in with her list of questions and she was acting like, she acts like not only is she one of them, but it's almost like she's their boss. Like, but you will keep me posted, right? And she did that to one of the cops on scene. She was like, I just need to know what's going on because that's the way I work. That's how. You don't work at all, ever. You will keep me posted, right? And they're like, yeah, we'll keep you posted. You're going to be in jail soon, so. Her list of questions in her, like they're all brainstorming together, on this bizarre occurrence that she doesn't know where this is coming from. I worry about anyone who gets close to her. I worry about that friend of hers in Minnesota who she is dying to give her kidney to, by the way. So from what we know about Sarah, if she really wanted to do something and she thought it was so unfair, the only thing she was upset about when she was found guilty of second-degree murder is that she couldn't give this poor woman her kidney. If Sarah wanted to be able to donate a kidney, she would be writing all the powers that be. She would be rallying, hopeful still, sticking up for herself. But she's not. I think they should give her the green light on that, though. I think that she should donate whatever she can. Maybe she can donate a face to Letitia Stout. I think that it was a big mistake for them to ask for a pre-sentencing investigation because I would imagine that during that investigation, Kranick saw all the letters that she wrote to the judge at the family court. Shows her to be a horrible mother. And of course, I mean, he knew who he was dealing with there, so. And Mr. J is going to be the state's attorney in the Stephen Stearns trial. That'll be interesting. At some point, it became clear to me before the trial that if Sarah had not been confronted with that suitcase video, in her mind, she would have remembered it as evidence against George. I mean, we hadn't seen the videos we saw during the trial yet, but we all had an idea. We finally put the pieces together. I mean, it took me a while to be like, they weren't playing hide and seek. Because it's just so, because I think that her saying to him, this is what I feel like when you choke me, to her, that's enough. That proves that he choked her. I mean, there are videos where she's confronting him face to face saying, you did this to me and he's completely confused. She says it, so it becomes the truth. It's also interesting to me that she was so against going pro se, because I don't know how she justified that in her own mind, considering she's so smart and she's such an achiever and she applies herself so much, yet she mentions, I think also in one of her letters, that but she doesn't have she doesn't have the education of a lawyer. I don't know why she would let that stop her. She certainly could have in the 5 years she was sitting there. But she's also, I think, very lazy. I don't think she likes to, I mean, obviously she doesn't like to work. I think that after basically being in her parents' care and after high school, and certainly after having a son and being married to someone like Brian who has his life together, she started to see herself in not such a great light, and she decided to become the victim, because you can't blame the victim. Nothing is their fault. And Brian had said that they had gone to couples therapy, and that during their marriage, that didn't, of course, work out. But he said that he really knew it wasn't going to work when he realized that she would, in front of him, in front of the therapist, just lie and say that he was abusing her. There you go. She says it, it's true. The judge in the Anthony Todt trial, Anthony Todt, in case you don't know, killed his whole family and their dog Breezy, and blamed his wife, of course. Anyway, the judge in that trial said something that was on my mind a lot leading up to the Sarah trial and during the trial. He called him a destroyer of worlds. Destroyer of worlds. And that came to mind so much because Sarah really is a destroyer of worlds. She meticulously went through and destroyed George's world. He was in a position where he had to find a job. Now he has a criminal record, as if looking for a job doesn't suck enough. He's somewhat estranged from his family. And he's being berated and abused every day, just beaten down. He must have felt so hopeless. Her son, her former husband, she just has endless energy to be destructive. The Torres family, destroyer of worlds.